The second point is Surah Al-Ahzab 33 and Ayah 49. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha nakahtumul mu'minat thumma طلقتموهن من قبل أن تمسوهن فما لكم عليهن من عدة تعتدونها فمتعوهن وسرحوهن سراحا جميلا. O you, those who believe, when you marry believing women, then you divorce them from before you touch them, then it is not for you for the numbering waiting period that you number it over them. So give their commodities and release them, releasing beautifully, gracefully, not fighting, not having wars. Now this question, this is, O you believing men, is addressing the believing men. You have married a believing woman and you are not able to touch them, meaning you are not able to have sexual relationship, one, or you cannot produce children. Because this word must, there are two words in the Quran used for touch. One is mas and the other is lamas. Lamas. Lamas is touching, but no effect is involved. You can check up in Surah Maida 6 ayat. You can write down. Lamas is used. Lamas is the word which means you can touch, but it doesn't affect. But mas is an effect. La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun. None can touch who are not purified. Meaning, if you are not purified, you will, when you will touch the Quranic ayat essence, it will not affect you. You may read it, you may understand the Quranic ayahs, but it will not affect your heart, you will not change. So similarly, when Allah says you marry, where before you touch them, meaning they should have an effect, and the effect takes place when they produce children from you. Because there is an ayat where Maryam says, how can I have a son when no man has touched me? The word must is used. The word must means an effect is to be occur. And lamas means touching, which does not have any effect. You have touched it, but it does not affect the person. Lamas. And must means where it affects. So if you are not able to touch the woman, that means you have no relationship or you cannot produce children. For 10 years, having my wife and I cannot produce children, then I have not touched her. Then if there is something wrong in me, then she can take for divorce. Even if you have relationship and you did not produce children, in all these three conditions, the woman does not do any iddat, no counting. She gets a divorce, she can get married to another man. In this Allah said that it is not for you for the numbering, the waiting period, that you number it over them. Any woman, married woman, is married to a married believing man, and if she takes a divorce or he gives a divorce and she has not produced any children, there is no iddat, no counting. Or the man has not touched the woman, no counting, no iddat. Or he has relationship but not produced children, again no counting. So this is very important. There are many relationship ayahs in the Quran, husband-wife relationship. I have taken up one so that we can understand. These are the prerequisites of divorce. Still now the divorce has not taken place. What are the prerequisites? I am discussing that. So I have taken one ayah related to prerequisite, what relationship we should have, and then we can see. Surah An-Nisa 4 and ayah 34. الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيًّا كَبِيرًا. The men are those who take a stand over the women with what Allah gave the bounty to some of them over the other, and with what they spend from their wealth. So women are those who amend, correct, and who are devout or dedicated, and they preserve for the absent with what Allah has preserved. And those women whom you are fearful of jarring emotional shock from them, then sermon them and abandon them in the beds and strike them. So if they obey you, then you do not seek over them away. Surely Allah is high, great. So what should be the relation between husband and wife is in a nutshell is given in this ayah. That the men are those who take a stand over women. Now taking a stand over women is answered in the further ayah, with the same sequence, with what Allah gave the bounty to some of them over the other, and with what they spend from their wealth. Here it stops. That what Allah has given in a human being, like for example, what Allah gave me, my financial status, my mental status, my, everything of my individual man, he has to take a stand according to his standard, not somebody else. Men are those who take a stand over the woman with what Allah gave the bounty. To him, some of the other are the other. There are the different men have got, some are greater in status than me, and some are below. So I will not take his standard or his standard, I will take my own status. What I have to take a stand according to my own situation. With what I can spend is also according to my situation. So Allah is mentioning that he should take a stand, take care of the woman according to his standard, and can spend wealth according to his standard. That is why the wife may have whatever standard, the man gets married and her status always adjusts to the husband's status. Whether it's high status or low status, she has to live with that. Now, this is and also taking stand also means that you have to protect her, from other kind of people approaches or in any situation, he has to take a stand to protect her. If somebody wants to say something to your wife, you have to take a stand, defend her. There are many ways to, but in the ayahs is mentioned whatever the Allah has given the bounty to the man, he has to take a stand. And whatever the amount of Allah has given to spend, he will spend according to his means. Now what are the believing woman character? This is a believing man and believing woman. The believing men I have described, the believing woman. So women are those who amend and correct. You see why Allah says the woman has to amend and correct, number one. Men are also correcting, but normally, because in the detail, there are menstruation cycle of the woman, they are emotionally disturbed. It's a hurt and anxiety. So they cannot remain steadfast continuously. They have to break the fast, they have to break the salah, they have to be isolated. Then again she has to come back to the normal course. So you know that is why Allah says the women are those who correct themselves, because they have to leave the righteous good deeds for a period of time in their menstruation cycle. They cannot pray, they cannot touch and read the Quranic ayahs, and they have to leave separate, no fasting, anything is mentioned. So now women are those who amend and correct. So when they are purified, then they should know they have to come back to the course again. So they keep on correcting. And they are devout to the essence of the message of Allah and to the husband. And they preserve for the absent with what Allah has preserved. Now what Allah has ordained in the woman to preserve her identity as a personality, her physically preservation and her psychology preservation. She has to preserve her psychology, from any person's attack. She must physically preserve herself, she must psychologically preserve herself, and the whatever the husband has provided her, the luxuries and the items in the house, she has to preserve that also in the absence of the husband. What Allah is, look, Allah says, they preserve for the absent what with Allah has preserved. And how can she do that all? Is by the muhkamat ayat. The governing ayahs are recorded in the Quranic ayahs. So she take guidance from those ayahs so that she can preserve herself, her psyche, her physical aspect, and the belonging of the husband which are given to her in his absence. Now further it says, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَنَّ, and those women whom you are fearful of the jarring emotional shock from them. So then what the husband has to do? If the believing man fears that my wife will give me an emotional shock, when you can get that emotional shock, then Allah says what you have to do. There are 3 steps. But before I discuss the 3 steps, you must know what emotional shock a believing woman can give to the husband. Sorry? Why would you get an emotional shock? Believing men can get an emotional shock. Shock, you understand? Not, they didn't cook nicely. You won't get an emotional shock? Huh? When you find out that she's having some extramarital affair, that's the tremendous emotional shock to the believing men. Why would she go into that category? Because she's not practicing the 3 things given above. You understand the 3 things that are given, that she keep on correcting, she are devout, and she preserve for the absent with what Allah has preserved. If she does not preserve herself what Allah has preserved for her, her personality and psychology and physically, then she might get involved in an extramarital affair. And that is an emotional shock for the believing man. So that is why Allah says, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ, and those women whom you are fearful of the jarring emotional shock from them. If you are fearful for that, not you doubt. Doubt is something else. Allah does not, He doesn't say conjectures. No zan, no conjecture, no doubt, but you are fearful, and you can be fearful because she is not practicing the above 3 things. She is not devout, she is not correcting herself, she is not preserving what Allah has made her to preserve. If she is not practicing that, you may be fearful, only on that condition. Not doubting. Not doubting. Remember this. Then Allah says what the believing husband should do. Sermon them. Remind them of the muhkamat ayahs, governing ayahs. Remind them so they can preserve what Allah has made them to preserve. Then they will be devout and they will correct. Remind them, sermon them. And the third is abandon them in the beds. And then second is abandon them in the beds, and the third is and strike them. So if they obey you, then you do not seek over them away. Surely Allah is high grade. Now the 2 and the 3 point, meaning first is to sermon, the second is to abandon them in the beds, and the third is strike them. I will come to this ayat. You go just next page. How much time you can abandon the wife? Surah Al-Baqarah 2 and ayat 226. لِلَّذِينَ يُؤْلُونَ مِن نِسَائِهِمْ تَرَبُّصُوا أَرْبَعَةِ أَشْهُرٍ فَإِنْ فَاءُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. For those who are failing from their wives, waiting is for 4 months. Then if they bestowed, returned, then Allah is forgiving, merciful. Now the word here is yu'luna, which means fail. Now there are types of fail. First of all, I has abandoned my wife. So waiting for a period, how much I must abandon my wife before I strike her? 1 day. Maximum, the limit is given 4 months. Then the third step is strike. Now there are conditions laid in this word Luna is fail. Then I've given now in the point to separate their wives from the bed is you are failing. You have separated them from the bed for what? Because you want them to amend. So you fail. So let them live for 4 months separately. And if this Luna also relate to husband cannot have sexual relation with their wives. He is failing to have relationship. The maximum period is 4 months. And then husband disappears from their wives. So she can wait for 4 months. He's failed. He's failing. You understand what I'm saying? This yu'luna lilladina yu'luna min nisa'ihim tarabbasu arba'ati ashhur. For those who are failing from their wives, the relationship of married life, that the husband cannot have normal relations with the wives. So waiting is 4 months. The woman can wait for 4 months, either she amend and fa'in fa'u, and if they bestow return, Allah is forgiving, merciful. So this yuluna is used, can be understood in 4 aspects. One is you separate them in their beds for 4 months, number 1. Number 2, if you are not able to have relationship with your wives, is also failing. And if the husband disappears, he is failed to continue having this marriage sexual relationship. So minimum period is required 4 months. And if they turn back or bestowed, the marriage relation is continued. No problem. This is not divorce. This is the prerequisite of divorce. This is not 4 months waiting period, is not divorce. It is a condition that is mentioned in the Quran for a men, believing men who are failing in the relationship with their wives, marital relationship. So the waiting is given for 4 months, so that she amends or she corrects. If the husband is lost, she can wait for 4 months. Now, coming back to the previous that this was the abandon them in the beds and strike them. Strike them means not that you beat her badly. Strike them is a sudden slap or sudden, shock you have to give her. That she cannot think, suddenly she's been hurt. But that's not very hard, just a shock should be there. Impact. Not that you be a cruel to her to distort, because you cannot be cruel to your wife. How can you be? You have got your emotional involvement. Just to correct her, give a shock treatment, as the doctors give to people who are in a situation. You just give them a slap or to shock them. That is to beat. So if they obey you, فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. This is so if they obey you, then you do not seek over them a way. Surely Allah is high grade. Now, because you are giving sermons, she has to obey. Now, in this ayah, there is very important point here. Ata'ana is used. This ata'ana, atiullah wa atiur Rasul. Ata'at. It means to obey. And in the Quran, obey, Allah says, obey Allah and obey the messengers. Okay? Obey the ulil amr, charge and authority. And here the word is for the wife, she has to obey the husband. Not in the wrong, but in the right. And because she comes and lives to you, you marry her, you spend money on her, and there are so many duties. So believing men should give sermons, and if she starts obeying you, meaning obey you and the ayahs, then no problem, then you do not find a way. I would like to clarify a point here. If the man disappears in the Pakistani law, I just want to give you a reference. The Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act 1939, Act 8, 1939, grounds for decree for dissolution of marriage in the law. A woman married under Muslim law shall be entitled to obtain a degree for dissolution of her marriage on the following ground: that whereabouts of the husband have not been known for a period of 4 years. How much time she has to wait?
4 years.
And what the Quran say? Thank you. Now still I am discussing the prerequisites. Now Nisa 4 and Ayah 35. وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ شِقَاقَ بَيْنِهِمَا فَابْعَثُوا حَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهِ وَحَكَمًا مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا إِنْ يُرِيدَ إِصْلَاحًا يُوَفِّقِ اللَّهُ بَيْنَهُمَا إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيمًا خَبِيرًا. And if you fear disunity between both of them, then appoint a governor from his family and a governor from her family if they both intend to amend or correct. Allah will put harmony between them. Surely Allah is knowing, acquainted. And further I read Surah Nisa 4 and Ayah 130. وَإِن يَتَفَرَّقَا يُغْنِ اللَّهُ كُلًّا مِّن سَعَتِهِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ وَاسِعًا حَكِيمًا. If both of them differ, Allah will make both of them free of need from His spaciousness, and Allah is spacious wise. Now if there is a disunity or they want to differ, both of the husband and wife, believing husband and wife, so the procedure prerequisite is laid down. Then you appoint a governor, a hakama, from the family of the husband. And that hakim is not that his relative who knows the Quranic ayat, who has got the wisdom of the muhkamat ayat, who understands the essence of the message of Allah. Not a judge. We are talking about Quranic ayats. So you appoint a governor, a hakim from the husband family, and a hakim from the wife family, believing woman family. So both of these hakim they are aware of the Quranic ayahs, they understand the essence of the message of Allah's ayahs. So both of these will be judging and listening to the both parties where they are differing or having differentiation. This is a prerequisite of divorce. And Allah says, if they both intend to amend and correct, Allah will put harmony between them. Surely Allah is knowing, acquainted. So if they both want to amend and correct, harmony will be there. But if, further say, if they both of them differ, so Allah will make them, both of them, free from need, from His patience. That means the divorce will take place. But before, the prerequisite of divorce is not that something goes wrong, the woman goes somewhere else and the man, no. The Quran says both of them will bring first the hakama, hakim from the men, husband, and hakim and the judge, or who knows the Quranic ayat and the essence ayahs, both of these, and they will proceed try to understand the problem. So, and if they intend to differentiate, then the talaq take place. So now in Surah Al-Baqarah 2, Ayah 227, وَإِنْ عَزَمُوا الطَّلَاقِ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And if they are determined of the divorce, then surely Allah is listening, knowledgeable. After all, they went to the process. All the time I was reading the prerequisite. And finally now they are determined. Either the husband is determined, or either the woman is determined for the divorce. You can take Allah is all listening. Go ahead. Now the divorce start. So first I will read where the husband gives a divorce. The second I will read when the wife takes a divorce. First the husband. And there is a surah by the name of Talaaq in the Quran. Divorce. Surah At-Talaaq, divorce 65, ayah 1. يا أيها النبي إذا طلقتم النساء فطلقوهن لعدتهن وأحصوا العدة واتقوا الله ربكم لا تخرجوهن من بيوتهن ولا يخرجن إلا أن يأتين بفاحشة مبينة وتلك حدود الله ومن يتعدى حدود الله فقد ظلم نفسه لا تدري لعل الله يحدث بعد ذلك أمرا. Now the addresses of the Prophet, O you who is a Prophet, when you divorce the women, then divorce them from their numbering, that is waiting period, and calculate the numbering waiting period, and take guard of Allah your Lord. Do not expel them from their houses, and they do not expel themselves, except they come with clear obscenity. And these are the limits or the boundaries of Allah, and whosoever transgresses the limits or the boundaries of Allah, then without doubt he had oppressed his soul self, psyche. You cannot comprehend that maybe Allah will cause an incident event after that order. Now the address is to the Prophet, Ya ayyuhan Nabiyyu. If you look in the Arabic, the address is the Prophet, but إِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاء, it becomes plural. Not Prophet, oh you Prophet. Look in the Arabic, Ya ayyuhan Nabiyyu, إِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاء, when you all. Address is to the Prophet. But further the sentence starts, when you all give divorce to the women. That means we are following, we men, believing men and women, men. So these believing men, when they divorce, or the Prophet included divorce, so Allah says you divorce for the numbering, the iddah. What is the counting period? Okay? And that we have that I write down as waiting period. When the man gives the divorce to the woman, so Allah says you divorce them for their numbering, and calculate the numbering waiting period. Now before I discuss the further ayahs, we go to the next page and find out what is that iddah, waiting period. Al-Baqarah 2 and ayah 228. وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَ قُرُوءٍ وَلَا يَحِلُّ لَهُنَّ أَن يَكْتُمْنَ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ فِي أَرْحَامِهِنَّ إِن كُنَّ يُؤْمِنَّ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. And the divorced women shall wait with their soul self-psyche for 3 readings. Quru means 3 readings of menstruation cycle, waiting period. And it is not lawful for them, they hide, conceal what Allah has created in their wombs, if they believe with Allah in the last day. So 3 readings of the menstruation cycle is to be counted. 3 readings, menstruation cycle. And if they are pregnant, then they should not hide what Allah has created in their wombs. Now further, if you go next, we have to complete this in that period, counting period. At-Talaaq 65 and ayah 4. وَاللَّهِ يَئِسْنَ مِنَ الْمَحِيضِ مِنْ نِسَائِكُمْ إِنِ ارْتَبْتُمْ فَعِدَّتُهُنَّ 3 أشهر وَاللَّهِ لَمْ يَحِضْنَ وَأُولَاتُ الْأَحْمَالِ أجلهن أن يدعن حملهن ومن يتق الله يجعل له من أمره يسرا. And those from your women who are hopeless from menstruation, if you are in doubt, then their numbering waiting period is 3 months. And those who never menstruated, and those who carry the burdens, pregnant women, their waiting period is that they place their burdens, give birth. And whoever takes guard of Allah, He will make from His order easy for him. I have linked up 3 ayahs to explain to you what is the iddah, or the waiting period of a divorced woman. The divorce process starts by counting it. The first is the 3 menstruation cycle. Or the second is, if she is hopeless in menstruation, there are 2 conditions in hopeless of menstruation. One is the menopause, or the second is that she has continuous bleeding. So if she has 4-6 months bleeding, so that is a separate, doctors know when the ovum is released, not the other bleeding. So that will not be counted. Only when the ovum is released, that period is the counting of that. So 3 menstruation periods. So now who are hopeless from menstruation, one is the menopause or one is the continuous bleeding. And if you are in doubt, and those women who never had menstruation, for them is 3 months. You understand what I'm saying? If a woman who has got normal healthy menstruation, then you have to count 3 menstruation cycles. And once a woman is hopeless from menstruation, meaning either she's on menopause, she doesn't have any menstruation, or she is having problem with the menstruation, again it will be 3 months. And women whom you married and you were having a relationship with her, you were living with her, she never menstruated, then the menstruation, the waiting period is 3 months. And if they are pregnant, then the waiting period is until she delivers the child. This is the waiting period, not divorce taking place. Now waiting period, if I use the waiting period, you must have all this in your mind. That is why I discussed these 3.